A butler approaches the girl who is the owner of the house. He turns to her milady and asks where she is going. The woman replies that she has already promised to be present at the invited dinner. Dvoretsky reminds that Martin Janino will also be there. But in his opinion, this is not so important. After all, he was not going to prevent the hostess from going to the evening, although there is a certain tension in the air. The girl has a worried look. The butler asks if she is ready for a kiss. The housewife understands that the man is not himself. He continues talking and reminds her that she herself asked him for this. They merge into a kiss. The girl did not expect this from the servant. There is complete silence. At that moment, the girl thought that the man who belonged to her, who was always by her side at all times and took risks for her sake, was now destroying everything she had, and will disappear without a trace. The events take place 3 months ago in the annex to the palace of Count Alanaldis. The governess Baroness Duchamp says that the lady of this house is simply ill-mannered and a very dirty person. She is irreparable. The servant bows to the baroness. The man says that the woman must be very angry and upset about it. Duchamp said not at all. She simply stated a well-known fact, and the harp is really unpredictable. The governess is surprised that the husband hired such a young guy as a butler to his estate. The butler, meanwhile, asked if the baroness's words were to be considered a refusal to become my lady's governess. The woman was nervous. The boy asked if he could bring Lushan's words about his daughter to the earl's attention. An annoyed servant said she was doing the right thing. Before that, she was a teacher. Under her tutelage, more than 20 noble persons were studied and brought out into the world of aristocrats. At the same time, she firmly stood her ground and could not consider herself wrong or doubt her competence. And that's why she didn't see cooperation. The woman wondered if the butler really thought that there would be people willing to mess with this ill-mannered, difficult girl for a fee. Be that as it may. But the words of the baroness were not devoid of meaning. Duchamp was a desirable governess for many noble families. She was a very competent and skillful teacher, and prepared the children of aristocrats to enter the world. However, now she made a mistake. Dvoretsky said that they have no doubts about Duchamp's professional qualities and her competence. Even the count had a high opinion of the woman, which is why he chose her among other applicants. If she refused for certain reasons, the advance payment will not be returned. Otherwise, it would be a really low estimate of her efforts and work done. The woman noticed that the guy was addressing her and was not speaking like a butler. And the boy continued to talk about her premeditated act. He hoped that Duchamp would maintain a friendly attitude towards both families that had rejected her. The woman caught the hint that she had to keep quiet about the lady of the house, otherwise she could have serious problems. The woman said goodbye to the butler. In general, she was satisfied with the agreement they had made between themselves. This family, in her opinion, was just a cube of snakes, and it is worth getting away from here as soon as possible. A lady, the earl's daughter, came down to the butler, whose name was Jade. Her name was Isla Alandis. The atmosphere has changed dramatically. The girl excused herself for not kicking out the governess, but she herself turned around and left. When Jade saw the young lady, his heart skipped a beat. The count made a lot of efforts to find a home teacher for his daughter. He won't let it get away just like that. Isla said she doubted it was all for her own good. Her father acted this way in order to turn her into an elegant and educated lady. This would be to the taste of Duke Chamel, and would help to marry her off sooner. In the continental trade, which Count Alandis wished to pursue, the Duke of Chamel was a prominent and very important figure. However, the Count's daughter was not going to help her father in this. It was not a bargaining chip. The girl invited Jade to go to her room. After all, they have been talking for so long. But the butler said that if she needed someone to talk to, he'd better send a maid. But the young lady asked him to stay. The lady asked not to upset her. After all, since the moment when Jade became a butler, they could see each other and communicate so little. And doesn't he himself want to talk to her and spend time? Or maybe he thinks that he has become an adult. The boy said that he became an adult 9 years ago. Ayla did not calm down. She said she would be an adult in a week, and in a month her debut will take place. And that's why you can't treat her like a child. Ayla looked at her former friend and asked if he was going to stay there or follow her. Dvoretsky had no choice. He felt very warm emotions for this girl. Maybe even too warm. The lady led to her room. She asked why Jade had ordered so much paint for her. The boy replied that she was actually needed by a girl who was engaged in drawing at a high level. Ayla said that there is no need to do this anymore. She was going to give up painting because it is a very extravagant activity for a young girl. Lady asked Jade to sit next to her on the couch. Was he going to stand the whole time? The servant said that her first foray into the great world of the aristocracy was soon to take place. The girls asked what Jade was leaning towards. The guy replied that she shouldn't communicate so closely with him, because people might think something. After all, they were no longer children, and such behavior cannot be allowed anymore. The girl was upset. Dvoretsky asked if she was so worried about Baroness Duchamp. He reassured that he had a conversation with the governess. Ayla called Jade a fool and gently hugged and hung onto his strong shoulders. She believed that the butler still remained a little fool and did not understand anything, although he was mature and experienced. The girl kept repeating whether he really believed that she was interested in some governess who was engaged in training snobs. And how can he call himself a male servant if he knows how happy Ayla is for him? It was a wonder for the boy. After all, Lady Alandis never behaved like a child. Since she lost her mother very early, she could not trust anyone except him and 2 servants. Jade explained that he was avoiding her on purpose. He was suddenly embarrassed by the fact that for the past 2 years he had avoided her company and tried to keep communication to a minimum. For Ayla, he always said that he was constantly busy and did not know how to carve out a free moment for his girlfriend. The girl said that she knew about the low competence of the previous butler. And from her servants, girls, she heard that Jade would not go to bed until she had done all the work around the house. The boy replied that it was his task. The Earl's daughter said she could help him if he agreed. Ayla asked if he really thought so. Dvoretsky replied that he never says what he does not think. The girl was happy. She slyly assured that the birds had been singing in her ear about Jade's frequent, almost daily fights with her brothers. And therefore she takes away the words about the fool, because there were no greater fools than her brothers in the whole kingdom. Alandis's sons constantly mocked the butler and gave many orders. And the problem was that Jade couldn't lie. That's why Ilya liked him. In addition, they have been close since childhood. Meanwhile, the master of the estate and his butler were having a conversation in the main office of the Alandis manor. The count asked if the Baroness Duchamp had really left his daughter. Jade confirmed this. The father began to think about what was on his daughter's mind. How could you behave so childishly if the debut in secular society was supposed to be right around the corner? Dvoretsky replied that Ailey did not need a governess. One of the governesses who were in front of the Baroness said that the lady knew everything perfectly by herself, and there was nothing to teach her. Rogan Alandis thought that she behaved this way because her mother was not from a noble family. The father was sure that his daughter was not yet ready to go out and present herself in the noble world. In the world of aristocrats, you need to be vigilant and prudent, which Ayla has not yet been able to do. The man ordered the butler to find someone for his daughter. The teacher had to be from a good family and have certain connections in the higher world. The good reputation of the future teacher should also be unquestionable. The skill of flirting with aristocrats and nobles was added to everything. Duke Shamel was not happy with stubborn and too independent women. Ayla was to become a submissive girl who knows how to keep her mouth shut. Baroness Duchamp would be an ideal candidate to tutor his daughter. Jade replied that he had been looking for a governess for the lady himself, but that all suitable persons had long since been taken. Rogan Alandis was always put off by the butler's calm manner of communication. As a servant, the boy did very well, thanks to which it was possible to get out of the debt pit. But something needs to be done about his self-confidence. And then the count was visited by a brilliant idea. He said that the butler was responsible for the Baroness not wanting to educate his daughter, and therefore he himself will be engaged in the education of his daughter. Jade asked how he could do that. He said he did not think it was the right decision and was willing to find a connection with the previous governess, Lady Shelley. But the count ordered that it was the boy who was engaged in her education and taught everything that concerned the Duke. It always bothered Rogan that the butler knew too much and was very clever. But in the current situation, it was not so bad, and it was possible to use it. The most difficult thing was to teach my daughter to flirt with men. Jade said he couldn't do that. The count sternly asked if this could be considered as the boy's refusal to fulfill his duties. He got angry and asked how the boy could refuse him. Angry, Rogan grabbed the whip. He ordered the boy to take off his shirt. The man intended to teach the insolent Jade a lesson in obedience to the servant. It didn't happen to him often, but when he did, he was scary. 4 days after the count's conversation with the butler, Lila was angry at her father's decision. She enjoyed spending time with Jade, so she didn't understand how this could be considered a punishment for the boy. The servant asked the butler to speak with the mistress. After all, someone could hear her words about friendship with a male servant and spread gossip, which in this situation was generally undesirable. Jay agreed with the maid. After all, there were people around who expected just that. When a young housewife would get pierced at a certain stage of life, everything will be used against her. Besides, Isla wasn't as stupid as her father thought. Now the Count had limited opportunities. Since he wants to marry off his daughter to an influential duke, he can't do anything to her now. Although there are options better than the aged duke. The girl says that she actually wants to choose a husband for herself. And now that she has Jade by her side, she is ready to learn many behavioral skills from her friend. And then, she will choose her husband. Isla did not see her future husband as a dull aristocrat who would treat her like a toy. He should not have been a pervert and an abuser. Her desire was to find a really good person and a good husband. The Count's daughter did not want to be a bargaining chip. She wanted to create a normal, good family with her husband, and just be happy with your loved one. Isla herself wanted to choose the direction of movement and her aspirations. Jade thought he was good at controlling his emotions, but her decisive speech beat him more than a whip. The girl did not understand his reaction. She promised that she would take him with her when she got married to her estate. Dvoretsky was glad that even in such a situation, he was remembered. However, he was not ready to answer how he would like to look at her happiness. Would he be happy for her? And would he rejoice as a faithful friend and companion? Ayla said that she is also ready to take Greta and Mary with her. Afraid of what this conversation might lead to, Jade offered to start her class. At the moment, the Marquise Melifina was the main one in the palace. The butler replied that the Marquis had died 3 years ago. But a year after his death, his wife returned to the upper aristocratic society. And less than a month later, she attracted all the attention. Isla asked if this business was beautiful. The lady of the new bottling. She was just wondering how this lady got to the palace. After all, the king himself was interested in her. So there must have been something unusual about this woman. That is why it became interesting what she is. Thanks to her beauty or intelligence, she got to the palace and became the universal favorite of the nobles of the kingdom. Beauty, of course, did not decide everything, but a lot. The butler replied that the Marquise was a beautiful woman. However, she had certain qualities that contributed to her promotion. This woman was quite ambitious, set clear goals and knew what she wanted from life, and was brave. Even in relation to men, the Marquise got only those whom she wanted, whom she liked. And she received it no matter what. There is even a possible option of refusing His Majesty himself if she does not want it. Since it led to such a furor, the noble society recently began to complain too much about the decline of the general moral and psychological state among the aristocracy of the kingdom. The nobles became illegible. The girl couldn't believe that Jade knew so much. After all, the boy had not left the borders of the Count's estate for a long time, and he was so well-oriented in the situation that prevailed around the noble world. He impressed Isla. The girl laughed and said that this time he could fall in love with someone and find his love. Jade thought that he would finally like someone to love, someone else to tear the thoughts of her from his heart. The day of the lady's debut has arrived. Many guests gathered in the main hall of the Ramland Empire Palace. There was a din everywhere. Aristocrats and nobles talked about the latest news of their homeland. Lady Isla Alandis' exit was finally announced. Isla was worried and very worried. She should have pulled herself together and behaved normally. After all, she did not come here for nothing, but to find her destiny. One of the main events of her life was to take place here. Lady Alandis was walking down the hall. She felt interested and completely indifferent looks on her. The porters were divided into camps regarding their attitude towards the young aristocrat. Isla wanted to spit on them. She focused on herself. She consciously controlled herself. During all this time, the girl learned and realized a lot on her own. All the same, everything had to pass in a rather good atmosphere. The main thing is not to be embarrassed in front of the main lady of the palace. Isla understood that she should never become a toy for men. She was not at all attracted to the role of a doll in the house of her future husband. After all, there was only one life and it was worth living normally. Ayla bowed to those present. She introduced herself and said that she was very pleased to see all the guests gathered in the hall for such an occasion. The girl understood that she was now being evaluated like a slot at an auction. Her strength was leaving her. Because of the uncomfortable shoes and clothes, her feet hurt a lot. Everyone around was comfortable and could watch her calmly. It seemed that she alone suffered so much. Isla asked her father if she could go out into the garden now and rest for a while. The Count asked her not to stay long and to return quickly. Duke Chamel was soon to return and look for a partner for the dance. The girl quickly went out on the balcony. She hoped none of the guests were watching her. In this situation, the Count's daughter felt completely clumsy and unprepared. And now you should give your feet a break from heels. My mouth was dry, and the only thing you could drink now was champagne. What Isla categorically did not want to do, and was against such a drink as a means of quenching the thirst that tormented her. The girl felt lonely. The lady heard the music. She realized that the ball had begun and the king and queen had begun to dance. After that, all the other guests had to join them. The ball was supposed to be very large-scale and attract all the noble families. It was worth hurrying, because if she does not have time to start the dance, then her father will be very angry. It is necessary to overcome the pain and go to fulfill the role of bait and switch assigned to her by the old Count. And even if she managed to reach the hall where the guests were already dancing, she would make herself a laughingstock before everyone. Ayla did not notice how a stranger approached her. He was wearing a black mask, and the girl understood that it was fashionable. This trend came from the same Marquise Malafina. This servant was somehow different from everyone she had seen here, and on the tray he probably held champagne which he wanted to treat the young person. The girl refused, but the servant offered a drink and was not going to accept refusal. Isla decided that nothing terrible would happen from a glass of champagne. Her surprise knew no bounds when the glass turned out to be ordinary apple juice. It was the lady's favorite drink. And while she was enjoying the drink, the servant took her sick leg and decided to examine it. Isla asked what was happening here and what the servant had decided to do. She was confused by the situation. The servant flexed the lady's leg with a deft movement. The pain passed. The girl noticed how strong the guy's hands were. She didn't even feel tickled. She felt very well and even wanted to stay in this place. But the man was already putting shoes on her feet. She asked him to stop because she could handle it herself. And if someone sees it, gossip will defame her and make her reputation bad. Everything around was strange. Her dress was torn, some stranger was sitting in front of her, and he was looking at the lady's bare legs. If someone sees this, it will be simply terrible. The man assured that everything will be fine. Isla recognized Jade by her voice. The butler said that the girl could not worry. The Marquise was due to appear in a few minutes, so she did not miss anything important. And for some time, the guests will listen attentively and look at the Marquise. Ayla asked where Jade had come from. The boy said that this was the commission and order of the Count. The girl could not understand what her childhood friend was talking about. And why did he like that mask? Dvoretsky ignored her question. He said that the ointment should work in a few minutes, but you shouldn't put too much stress on your leg today. And then everything will be fine. The girl was still scared. She thought that she met a pervert in the garden who preys on innocent girls and can do terrible things to them. Jenid said that she is not at all naive as she thinks, and everyone who saw her today will agree with him. She was more interested in how the aristocrats would treat her when her father revealed his plans to marry a duke who had enormous influence in the merchant guild. That's when their true attitude can be revealed. Jade said that everyone present in the hall today would say that among all the young ladies, Ayla stood out for her beauty and grace. She was the most beautiful and graceful. Everyone looked at her with admiration. A young nobleman approached Jade and Isla. The girl tried to remember his name. The only thing that came to mind was that he was the son of some marquis. But the tone in which the aristocrat spoke was superior. He asked the servant what he dared to do in this part of the house, where the servant was forbidden to enter for any reason, except for work. The things that happened here had nothing to do with the servants and other servants. The butler said that it seemed to him as if the lady had become ill, and he tried to help her with something until other guests or the doctor came. And now he is sure that the aristocrat and the lady can return to the hall. Ayla said that it really was time for her to go back to the ballroom, because her father was definitely waiting for her, and he might be angry. As she passed by, she got the feeling that these two should not be left alone. The girl turned to the servant and said that she would not mind trying the champagne that the servant brought her. Isla asked if he was willing to fulfill her request. Jade took the hint and simply nodded at her. The aristocrat looked after the girl with the servant. He tried to remember her name. Finally, the name of Isla Alandis came to mind. She belonged to the family of the Count, who was closely involved in trade and tried to break through in this field. Meanwhile, Isla told her friend that he might not bring the juice. After all, it was simply a reason to take him from there to avoid an unwanted conflict due to Jade's habit of telling the truth everywhere and to everyone. And now she must find her father. The servant noticed that the girl had a rather tortured look. He really wanted to run away with her, protect her from everything that this girl will go through in her life. A woman approached Jade from behind. She asked if her partner could finally settle down. Jade replied that she had messed something up and he wasn't her acquaintance or partner. But the woman asked how she should contact him. Perhaps a companion or a toy would suit him better. He replied that he did not care what she would call him. The stranger assured her that she would call him a toy. It suits him so well. She sternly ordered him to stop fooling around and go with her. This woman never accepted rejection. The will of another person did not exist for her. Everyone always obeyed her orders and fulfilled all her whims. A few days later, two men were engaged in fencing at the Allende's family training ground. One of them was clearly tired or simply inferior in strength and training to his sparring partner. One of the men in training was Earl Alandis's second son, Calaman Alandis. He shouted furiously at his opponent and called him a sneaky little rat. And was he going to attack him at all? Apparently, the Count's son could not cope with the enemy. He was angry that he couldn't handle an ordinary butler. Another boy joined them. He made fun of Calaman and mocked him. The first son of Count Zekin was the new arrival. He explained that it was worth finishing, because the sales group had sent a new invoice, and the father was looking for the youngest son for joint business. And don't make your father angry. When the brothers were alone, Calaman said that for some reason the butler was very angry with him. Zekin asked if this was why the brother only trained with Jade and not the other soldiers. The younger brother replied that this was not training, but a good excuse simply from the upstart Hamsalita, the butler, although he never managed to do this. And it is even difficult for him to get into it even if he is unarmed. Calaman said that the butler simply avoids a serious fight with him because he is afraid, and that is why he is as slippery as a rat. His brother asked him not to go to Jade, because little is known about this boy and his background. Zekin emphasized that the servant had quite good fighting skills, and it looked like he had been taking sword fighting lessons since childhood. After all, how could he oppose Calaman if he was an ordinary Seljuk? Calaman said that he definitely came from the street. After all, only there they do not engage in battle but simply run away and sneakily attack the victim, who is disoriented and cannot do anything at all. And Jade just got through the fights. In general, the brothers agreed that such an enemy should not be touched. Although the younger one said that he knows the weak spot in the butler's defense and can deal with him in a moment. After all, in a battle, you should be the first to win. In Calaman's opinion, the servant was beaten very often in childhood, and therefore, when aiming at him now, it is worth attacking the right armpit. It is at such a moment that he will not be able to move his arm muscles. There was a vulnerable spot. The brother laughed at Calaman's naivety. He spent a lot of time training with Jade, but he only learned about one weak point. And in battle, you need to be careful with him, otherwise the father will punish him for damaging the butler. He did not know, but along the way there is some benefit from Jade. Father more than once came to the defense of his butler, although officially he kept the boy because Isla brought him from the street 10 years ago and left it at home. But everyone did not care about his origin and past, because the butler still remains a simple servant, although he is higher in status than the others, and he is only required to perform his work qualitatively. Zekin said that Lady Lauren had sent an invitation to the party, and his father ordered him to accompany Isla. Most of all, the sister proved herself well at the debut dinner. Aristocrats paid attention to her. Some families showed too much interest in her, although the father refuses everything. He says that even a stone is useful when it lies in its place. And now it's time for Isla to become useful for the House of Alandis. And since the party is being thrown by Lady Lauren, it's probably too much of a dirty game. It is clear that the request was initiated by the Duke of Chamel. He couldn't just invite a woman over. Many eyes are watching his house. Zekin couldn't wait for the evening to be over. After all, then it will become clear why the meeting was organized, and Lady Lauren probably won't like it very much. Isla had to show herself in all her glory, although the sister still lives in her own world. She had little experience with real situations. However, the sister also ignores their advice and requests. Last time, she simply ignored the brothers and did not pay attention to them, and they both now wondered if the Duke of Chamel would teach her good manners. But will Isla kick even now, like a little kid who doesn't know what to do when he meets a terrible wolf? That same day, late at night, Ailey became ill. The maids attended to her. They were very scared. The girl showed no signs of life. The lady had a lot to drink. Before that, she did not drink alcohol at all. The servants asked Jade to put the lady to bed. Meanwhile, they will take a bath and make tea. And it is worth supporting her head. because the girl will want to vomit after drinking so much. The boy was not confused. He carried Isla to the bed in his arms and laid her down. The girl woke up and asked him not to leave her. The boy asked how his mistress was feeling. She replied that she really thought about dying. Tonight, Isla finally learned how many types of alcohol existed. She did not just drink something, but mixed everything that was in front of her on the table. In addition, the guests present tried to eat it, especially the Duke. Ayla said she likes Jade, although he is not a nobleman, and that was exactly what interested her so much. He was a good, decent person, and he did not wriggle out of himself. But aristocrats and nobles are another matter. There is no elegance in nobles. They are all filthy animals inside and lustful and sinful. Their thoughts are occupied with matters low and unworthy of people of high rank. They don't understand people. When the girl refused to drink at the table, they said that Ayla would be forced to kiss the person sitting on the right. It was a new tradition at such evenings. It was called the kissing game. It was even hard for her to believe that this could happen. But Duke Shamil sat next to her. This pervert constantly tried in every way to get to her. She didn't even manage to go to the bathroom. That is why she continued to drink continuously. And the Duke was angry with her towards the end of the evening and kissed the girl who was sitting on the other side. And they continued to kiss for quite some time. It was disgusting. The other guests laughed and clapped their hands loudly. The girl got very drunk and fell. And by the time she got home, she fainted 3 times. It was the only thing Isla could do tonight because she was put in such a frame. She had to defend herself in every possible way from everyone present at that dinner. It was like being among wild beasts, and the girl simply could not give her first kiss to some old man. And today she had another thought. And the main thought crept into her towards the end of the evening. The girl wanted to live the way she longed for it. After all, otherwise she will have to become not what she wanted to be. Jade felt sorry for her. Poor milady caused pity. The boy could not protect her, and could not possess her. He chastised himself for everything that he could not do now, only because he did not have a worthy pedigree and ancestors who were nobles or belonged to the higher world. Conventions once again stood in the way of human happiness. Deep in his thoughts, Jade didn't notice one of Ayla's personal maids enter the room. The girl asked if the lady was all right, because the butler looked tired. The woman asked if Jade was going to leave yet. He replied that he had nothing more to ask her. The stranger said that the guy knows how to twist an inexpensive one, and working for the Count is just a waste of talent. The woman was Marquise Melifina Aiden Genevieve. She asked why the butler didn't just become her servant. After all, it would be a lot of fun for him to work for her. But Jade refused the offer. Melifina assured that it was actually a great honor. After all, many aristocrats would like to work with her. But you will not go against his will. The woman asked to hand over the documents to Count Alandis. And she asked the young man again. She wondered why he refused to work for her so much. After all, the Count does not yet know what insidious and dangerous game he has begun to play with serious men. Soon his case could go to waste. The boy asked why the Marquise was so eager to help him. The woman assured that she could get something from him. By the way, she inquired about the relationship between Isla and Duke Shamil, although she knew everything. Some gossip has already started to spread. But the boy had hardly heard of them, or simply did not pay attention to them. Lady Isla is a sweet and very attractive girl. But it is sad that she was destined to be the daughter of a count. The Marquise said that if she was being pushed into marriage with some straitjacket, she would rather run away from home than fall prey to a pact between 2 merchant families, and become just another commodity. But at least Duke Shamil was a good businessman, and had quite good prospects for the future. His merchant ship, huge by the standards of the kingdom and empire, was due to arrive soon, and there will be a big auction. It should have been a truly remarkable event. All large trade groups want to win the right to fight for participation in the auction, and the Duke may want to arrange a wedding right after the auction. It is worth hurrying. In exchange for youth and purity, Lady Ayla could live a life of wealth and gold. But it was a really boring topic to talk about. Marquise asked to come over and massage her shoulders before Jade left. Suddenly, the woman pulled the boy to her. She looked intently into his eyes. Outwardly, the young man was rough and uncouth, but there was pain and sadness in his eyes. And for a servant, he was too melancholic and inappropriate. The woman added that Jade fits her type perfectly. He reminded her of her first love. That lover died at their hands. The aristocracy, like ferocious dogs, pounced on her husband, although Jade could have misunderstood. It was a common name, but everyone knew Malik Joseph Astrid. He remembered how he was asked to run and stay alive. The boy had to live his life and leave the past behind. Joseph Malik was his father, but the Marquise could not know his father. This simply could not happen. After all, the boy remembered the past well, and there was not a woman there even resembling Melifina, who would be a companion in his father's exploits. In the night of the same day when the conversation with the Marquise took place, Jade went into the room of Isla, who was calling him to her. The girl noticed that the boy was tired, and the tone of his address was too official and cold. Dvoretsky replied that after the debut at the ball, the girl should not demand anything more from him. After all, he did everything possible that was in his power. The Earl's daughter herself was amazed that Jade was still thinking about the ball. In the boy's memories arose the day when Ayla brought him to her father's house 10 years ago. At that time, he was an ordinary tramp from the street. Jade was almost dying, and only the girl came to his aid. He was too weak to do anything. But 8 years later, his health suddenly improved, as if Jade had become a completely different person. Aside from the scars from his injuries, his body was clean and healthy. The reason for the sudden improvement in his condition was unknown neither to him nor to the doctors treating him. The girl then joked that he was just late maturing. But at that time, Jade was 26. The Count began to call the boy to his rooms more often. Jade stood up for Ayla in any situation, especially when it came to money. The boy calculated that the expense reports were made with an error. Rogan Alandis noticed talent in the boy. It was when he checked all the documents left by the old butler that the old Earl ordered him to take this position himself and lead the economy out of crisis. Jade began working with the papers, and only Lady Ayla gave him strength and motivation to cope with this work. And that's why he had a desire to find a reason to always stay in the annex. He wanted to stay with the young lady even when everyone around them was going to sleep. He often stayed in Isla's room after work, who was already fast asleep, and talked to her in his mind. The boy caught himself thinking that he wanted an Isla. From that moment on, Jade did not dare to be in the part of the house where the lady lived. This continued for 2 years, until a strange incident happened months ago with Baroness Duchamp. The girl asked what Jade was thinking. The guy realized that he was distracted. Ayla asked if he knew what day it was. The young man was worried that the girl had come too close to him. It became increasingly difficult to control. When Jade replied that he really didn't know what day it was, the girl teased that he was too smart for that. Ayla gave him a gift that had been waiting for him for almost a year, but the friend was constantly busy. The lady asked to open the box, because she was sure that Jade would like it. The boy did not think that his mistress would remember this day. He was greatly impressed by the gift. It was a scarf tied around the neck. The girl asked if she could put a scarf on him. The boy was confused by such a request. It sounded unexpected, but what worried him most was that Isla was so close. The lady asked him not to move. The girl happily said that she had always dreamed of it. She added that one day she will do this to her husband, and it is worth practicing in these matters. Jade was not happy with these words, but managed to control her emotions. The girl remembered her childhood, namely the moment when she met the boy. She asked him not to worry because even though she was only 10 years old, she clearly knows that there are different moments in life, both good and bad. And after 10 years ago, he agreed to go with her to her home. The girl he loved passionately with all her heart knitted our neckerchief for him. This moment excited him very much. Ayla was proud of the gift. The Count's daughter managed to match the handkerchief exactly to the color of Jade's eyes. The girl said that he has very beautiful eyes. Sometimes a ribbed edging is visible around them. And then the lady said that she had something important to say to him. The girl remained silent for a long time and did not dare to say anything. But finally she said that she had made an important decision. The boy was worried. Isla said that she has finally decided who she wants to marry. This lady could not discuss this with anyone but Jade, her best friend. Isla was in Lady Karin's salon today. They were talking about Isla's favorite poem, but suddenly one of the guests started insulting the Count's daughter. Lady Viviana said that Ayla must have seen nothing but books in her life. This question has always interested Lady Alandis herself, but the woman voiced it openly and straight to the point, and everyone else just watched. And it was at this moment that an unknown young boy came. The girl asked if Jade remembered the aristocrat who approached them at the ball when they were on the balcony. It was he who entered the salon. The newcomer said that he was simply delighted with the work that Isla was talking about. He was simply amazed at how knowledgeable the Count's daughter was. He asked to forgive him, but could not help but join the conversation. The aristocrat asked if he could join the discussion, and if he would not offend the ladies present. Vivian fell silent, and Ayla, on the other hand, spent most of the day talking to this boy. She was delighted with him. The nobleman seemed to her educated, gallant, and intelligent. She was impressed by his manners and behavior. The guy's name was Martin Giannino. Jade was familiar with the name. A young aristocrat recently moved to their area. He was not familiar with local traditions. But Martin's family owned a large estate in the south of the continent. Their lands were very fertile, and therefore the harvests were very rich. In addition, the clan collected tribute and taxes. Martin was the second son and rarely visited the city alone. Recently, grief happened in the Giannino family. Their first son died as a result of an accident. In this way, Martin became an heir and studies the world. If Lady Isla can marry him, she can escape from her family and try to live a normal life. She will be free from her father and brothers. And to top it all, he will get status and wealth. Even for a count, this is a better option. Everyone around will only benefit when these two love each other, and no one can stop them. This was indeed good news. Jade had to confess everything to the girl in order to be able to free herself from her. The boy was about to leave when Ayla stopped him. She said she had something else to tell him today. The girl was interested in how to understand that the boy also loved her or simply felt something for her. And if by the end of the season nothing will work out for her with Martin, then she is forced to fulfill her father's will and marry the old Duke Chamel, who was a pervert and proved himself to be completely on the bad side. Jade asked what the girl wanted from him. Ayla replied that in 4 days there would be more festivities at Lady Lauren's house. It will be similar to the one last time. Martin was also invited there, and that's why the girl was going to sit next to him. Dvoretsky immediately understood everything. Ayla noticed a change in his behavior. She wondered what exactly had caused this change in emotional state. And even more, she longed for a new meeting. It was better for her to die than enter into a new relationship with Duke Chamel. This time, there was also going to be a kissing game. And so she has to sit next to Martin and kiss him. This will allow you to determine whether the guy actually feels something for her. And make sure at the same time about your feelings for him. Duke Chamel will also stop being interested in her, because he will see her relationship. And if she's lucky at dinner, she'll be able to think about marrying Martin. But if it fails, the father will simply finish her off. He will be very angry at his daughter's self-activity and her independence. But it is better to try something than to do nothing at all. Ayla thought she had very little time for this, and she asked Jade to teach her how to kiss so she wouldn't be embarrassed in front of Martin and the others. Jade didn't understand at first. But then Ayla explained that many people consider her a weirdo anyway. She was afraid that because of her inability to kiss, she would be completely embarrassed, and then no one would look at her at all. And Marquis Giannino is popular with ladies and women. After all, his manners and mind could not leave anyone calm. Martin was the embodiment of everything one could only dream of. Ayla constantly thought about him. All she wanted was to impress him with her kissing skills. The girl wanted to do it so skillfully that he had to fall in love with her right away. Jade ignored her words. The boy simply said that when Martin was a real gentleman, he would not pay attention to such small things as the inability to kiss. And Ayla is not obliged to do this right at this reception. But the girl did not think so. Duke Chamel was soon to send a letter of proposal to her father. The count was to return from the hunting lodge in a week. At the same time, there was not enough time, and only he will receive the letter. The end of everything. The lady got angry, because she thought that Jade was destined for her anyway. She tearfully begged him to help her become the woman Martin wanted her to be. It is difficult for her to ask a good friend for this, but he alone could help. Jade silently pulled her close and leaned into Ayla. However, it did not last long, and he silently walked away. The girl did not know how to react to such behavior of her friend. She still couldn't figure out the reasons for his sadness. The guy was drinking wine. This was unusual for him. However, the Marquise was amazed by the changes in him. She liked his sad face and suffering look. It reminded her of a former lover. Jade remembered Ayla's request. He still couldn't calm down. Did she really think that a kiss could help and heal her grief? The young man was very angry but did not show it to others. Marquise said that when he is relaxed, he resembles his ex. Jade asked what Malik was talking about. The woman said that there was definitely something wrong with the boy. After all, before he did not pay attention to her mumbling. The boy asked the Marquise what that Malik was that she kept asking about him. He still couldn't believe that the man she was talking about was his father. And he learned how the Allendes had destroyed his family. He couldn't believe it for a long time because he loved Lady Ayla. But one could not help but think about killing one's family. He believed that it was worth keeping calm until a certain time. But this could not happen for a long time. The next day, something happened in Lady Allendis's chambers. Odin of the maids was rehearsing for Lady Ayla. Another girl reassured Marie and said that the lady often sought meetings with Jade. And there was nothing like that in this. Ayla asked what happened to the butler. One of the servants replied that during training he injured Lord Calaman. For this, Jade was severely beaten and locked in the basement of the castle. Everyone is surprised by the young man's act. He had trained many times before, but this time something strange happened. The count's daughter asked such serious injuries. The servant asked who exactly the lady was interested in. The girl replied that she was interested in Jade. The servants replied that they didn't know much. So much so that the butler himself was immediately locked in a cell in the basement after the incident. They asked if Ayla knew Mila, the maid who was in love with Jade. Recently, she cried a lot because of what happened to her lover. She was barely sedated by the maids and forced to take a sedative and fall asleep. The lady wasn't going to hear about it. She was worried about her friend. The earl was interrupted by a servant who informed him that Lady Ayla had arrived. The man thought that his daughter had come to ask for money for a new dress. Brothers and father saw the girl. They asked what Ayla dared to do in the palace like this. After all, she could be seen and lied to by bad tongues. The girl asked if it was true that her brother was injured. He replied that he was not in the mood to talk to her, but the girl insisted that she wanted to get an answer from him. The guy said he just sprained his hamstring, and nothing terrible happened. And everyone lies that he lost the fight to the butler. His brother poked him, saying that when the weapon ends up on the floor, it's already a loss. But the young man assured that he accidentally dropped the weapon. After all, the enemy caught him by surprise, and he just practiced defense. The brothers talked about the fact that the scoundrel had become very insolent after his father's departure. The girl was not going to listen to their quarrel, but simply asked if she could ask her brother for a favor. She asked for a date with Jade. Ayla said she had an important errand for the butler before that, and he could not fulfill it. The brother said that the boy was beaten and locked in the basement, and the sister cannot go to him there in this form. The girl protested, saying that it was very important. The brother couldn't figure out that she needed something so important there in the middle of the night. He had no desire to accompany her into the darkness and cold. Ayla replied that she should not talk about such things with him. She needs the thing for women's affairs. The elder brother said that for this she could ask some other servant to help her in her search. But the younger man took pity and ordered the servant James to take his sister to the punished butler. After all, for this, the girl came all the way to their building and was not afraid of anything. And you have to be more kind to your sister. When the girl left, the elder said that they had let the girl down too much. You need to be firmer in your decisions. But his interlocutor said that it is worth being more far-sighted and thinking about the future. One day she could become their only hope for a better life. Don't treat your sister with such disdain that it could be their ticket to a better life. After all, their father was no fool either. Ayla entered the dungeon. She saw Jade lying on the floor. The guy was unconscious and covered in bruises and traces of beatings. The girl started calling her friend, but he did not answer. She could not believe in such cruelty. The caraffe's daughter decided to rub the boy's wounds. She definitely could not leave him to her own devices, because he was always by her side and helped her in every way. Now it's her turn to thank her for her care. Ayla took the boy's body in her arms. She spoke to him, begging him to come to his senses. The girl said that Jade himself always supported her and motivated her to achieve her goals, telling her not to give up. When the boy opened his eyes, the girl joked and said that she didn't have time to lie down and get punished by her nerdy brothers. The boy replied that it is better for him to die now so as not to torment anyone. The lady regretted the day she brought him to the count's house. After all, it was from that day that Jade was forced to go through all this suffering and pain. Now she aimed to help him. It was worth suffering. Ayla was amazed at the huge number of scars that covered the butler's body. Did Count Rogan himself abuse and personally torture the boy? It was not difficult to believe, knowing the temper of his father. That was why Jade could avoid her all this time. Perhaps the father beat him precisely because the boy became very close to his daughter. But now there was no time for sadness and regret for past actions. The young man stood up and stopped Ayla's hand. He said he would treat the wounds on his body himself. But the girl said that it would be difficult to do, and she wanted to help him. Jade told her not to act like that. He asked if he had not warned the girl that she should stop. She replied that she was very sorry for what had happened. Although she did not fully understand what her fault was, the girl said that everything should end soon. Soon she will marry her beloved man and take a servant with her. A sarcastic smile played on Jade's face. He did not think that sending the girl would be able to help her in any way, let alone himself. Ayla said that one thing would change from then on. But the butler stopped her. He asked to get out of this place, because it does not suit a young lady to be in a dungeon near a punished servant. In addition, footsteps were heard outside the door. Jade was left alone. He did not understand what was happening to him. Calmly, he could not even look the girl in the eyes. He had no other choice. It is worth making more efforts to control your reactions. From the very beginning, he just wanted to protect her from all troubles. And now it turns out that he will be the one who will destroy the life of his beloved girl, with whom he will not have to be together anyway. He hadn't remembered his name in a long time, but just now it lit up in my mind. Jade Lucius Astrid. He didn't want to be the cause of her suffering, and if he is forced to let go of his whole life and everything that was before it, he finally had to do something. Finally, he could dare to touch her body. He gently took the hair. An inexplicable feeling ran through his body. The girl was embarrassed by this act. Lady wasn't sure what Jade was thinking right now. The next day, the servants dressed Ayla. They talked about the butler still in the dungeon. However, Mila went to him and brought food and water. The lady understood that it was about a girl in love with Jade. This girl started working in the palace last year. She immediately proved herself as a good specialist and responsible employee. But because of her origin, many people laughed and mocked her. That's when Jade came to her aid. He ordered to stop mocking the girl. In that difficult period, the boy stood up for Mila, and since then, the girl loved him with unearthly love. And now she is happy to care. The girls talked about Jade thanking her for caring. It was hard to believe. To top it all off, he inquired about her well-being, after which Mila was sure to go with him under the wedding crown in her mind. Ayla remembered how he treated her, and why he treated her so coldly. After all, she was a lady ready for anything for the sake of her old friend and comrade. She even felt a certain responsibility for him. Bad thoughts turned everything upside down inside. How could Jade change his attitude towards her so quickly? It was still a mystery to the girl what had so strongly affected his behavior and changed his attitude. She was shaking her head so much that a servant was taking care of her hair. Ayla herself thought that she should not torment herself with such thoughts, now that her childhood friend was in a difficult situation sitting in a dungeon. Jade, who entered the room, broke off from her worries and gatherings. Ayla was happy. She could not believe that the boy was already standing on his 2 feet. He would need to lie down and rest. She was interested in how he got out of there. Jade replied that he was released by Ayla's brothers. After all, because of his imprisonment, they have more worries than profit. The girl sent the maid because she wanted to be alone with Jade. The lady questioned the butler. The boy looked at her strangely. The servant said that she must be preparing to go out into the big world. The young lady became very ashamed. After all, a friend got out of prison only today, and she was getting ready to go for a walk and was getting ready. She wanted to fall through the ground, but she said that she had already arranged a meeting with a certain person. Jade said he was sure Martin Giannino would be at that dinner, but both were thinking about last night. It was difficult for the girl to understand how the butler managed to behave like this, but she asked about how her friend was doing and how his wounds were. He assured that it was not necessary to think about it, because he was used to this. Ayla could not believe that a person gets used to this. After all, the boy's whole body was covered with scars and scars from the whip. She couldn't even imagine how hard it was for him. All this time, Jade kept quiet about it. The butler reminded her of the words the girl had said to him the previous night. It was about loneliness and the desire to rise after every failure and fall. It didn't matter how she finished. An important effect. And now he asks the lady if she is ready for a kiss. The girl looked at him in confusion, but the butler calmed down, because she herself asked him to learn how to kiss, so as not to be embarrassed among aristocrats. His goal was to teach the young lady to kiss and fulfill her promise. The girl opened her mouth, but Jade asked if she wanted to say anything. Otherwise, she should remain silent. Ayla could not speak anyway. In fact, she didn't want to say anything. She just wanted to enjoy the moment. There was nothing that could stop them. But they were interrupted by unknown people who knocked on the door of the room. The moment is lost. A servant looked into the room and informed that the carriage had been brought. And in this case, the lady can go down. In the room, there was clearly an atmosphere inappropriate for the relationship of a servant and a lady. Isla thought she kissed Jade. The guy held out a makeup kit in his hand and assured her that she might need it today. After that, the boy turned around and headed for the exit. The young lady stopped him. But he answered coldly. Dvoretsky asked if his friend liked the lesson and if she was ready to learn it. The girl is confused. She doesn't know what to say to Jade. Inexplicable feelings overwhelmed her. The situation was strange. Ayla understood that she herself had asked to be taught how to kiss. But she was very offended by this attitude towards her, and by what had just happened between them. It was just an ordinary lesson for the boy. Nothing extraordinary and exciting. She herself could not believe that she felt certain experiences. Everything pointed to the deep feelings she had for Jade. This simply could not happen. He was no match for him, and they had no future. The guy said that he hopes that the girl will get everything she longed for and finally be happy. Sarcasm and mockery still slipped through his words, which insulted the young lady even more. Jade was thinking about Mila. She was a beautiful girl and always tried to stay positive. Her origin from the north reminded him of his native land. They talked sweetly, but the girl became interested in him. But it could not be said that all their communication was in vain. In order for his plan to succeed, a faithful and devoted person was needed in this house. He just wanted to use the girl for his own purposes. Meanwhile, Lady Isla has arrived for a visit, and Jade still thought about the fact that the plan with which he tried to protect the girl could, on the contrary, harm her herself. He was ready for anything for her sake, but he is forced to do it. He took the girl's hand. In the fragile and delicate pen, one could feel extraordinary strength. And it is she who will lead both of them to unknown, interesting places. It felt like the birth of something new and previously unknown for these two. Jade understood that he now had his own path to follow, but this time something may stand in his way, and it is worth deciding what is more important to him, an old friend and lover, or a fate that he did not know about for 10 years. Her brother approached the girl. He asked if the girl was ready. Ayla wondered if Kalaman would go with her. The brother said that Kalaman would not go because he had drunk alcohol, and that's why he was not in good shape now. The hostess welcomed the guests. She was glad to see Viscount Alandis and Lady Isla. Both thanked for the greeting and invitation, and promised to have a good time. The woman assured that this is exactly how it will be. The hostess warned that all the people present at the Alandis table were quite influential, and had a strong influence in the world of trade and speculative affairs. Isla thought that she should not come up with an excuse and go away, but she stopped. After all, father was supposed to return tomorrow, and it was impossible to delay. Duke Shamil, that old pervert, should have already sent a letter to the count proposing marriage. It was worth focusing on dinner, but the old duke was already in his place at the table along with Ayla, and an unfamiliar woman was sitting next to him. However, the lady already guessed who the stranger was. It was the Marquise Mellifan herself. The woman looked at her strangely. However, the hostess assured that recently it is very difficult to cross paths and meet with the Marquise. Ayla thought she should focus on herself. The young lady told the owner that she was not feeling well, and that's why she couldn't transplant it closer to the balcony or the dressing room, so that in case she gets sick, she can quickly change her seat or leave the hall. The young lady was worried that she might spoil the evening, and she really did not want to do this for the reasons that it was impossible to be ashamed in front of the high world. The hostess promised that she would fulfill all wishes. Lady Lauren assured that everything would be fine and she would personally make sure that every guest was comfortable. Isla thanked for the kind words and promised that she would try not to disturb anyone. Isla thought about the fact that she had no right to make a mistake today. After all, her fate will be decided today, and the slightest mistake will cost her honor and prestige. She will not have a second chance. Condemnation will remain with her forever. It seemed to the girl that she was being pursued by some evil fate. All recent events point to some kind of fate. She could not believe that her whole life, so measured and planned, began to collapse at once. Her thoughts imperceptibly returned to Jade. Their kiss the last time they met touched something very important inside her. Ayla was with him all this time, but she could not notice such drastic changes in her friend. But in reality, she was afraid that it was not the butler. For some reason, I had the impression that things would never be the same again. Life was changing radically, and she was on the threshold of change. The lady tried her best to forget what she had just thought. Everything should be fine. Life should go back to normal. A familiar voice distracted me from my thoughts. It was almost fate. The man asked how the young lady was feeling. It was Martin. He said that the seat next to him was free and she fit perfectly into the role of his partner. Did she not wish to join his company and talk? The girl looked confused. The girl was sitting next to Martin. However, she could not talk to the man she loved. There were many people around him. Women and men surrounded the aristocrat with interest, who amused everyone and was intelligent and clever. It could not be otherwise. He was the heir and descendant of a prominent family. He was known and adored by many nobles, and Martin was popular. A beau monde always gathered around him. Duke Shamel approached Aria and Martin. The girl noticed that he changed his hair specifically to look younger than his actual age. The lady thought it was ridiculous and not worthy of a man. The woman asked if the Duke really wanted to introduce her to Lady Isla Allardyce. After all, although she had heard a lot about the Count's daughter, she did not have the honor to meet her personally. The girl replied that it was a great honor for her. The lady apologized for her manners because she very rarely went out into the big world. Artin told the Marquise that he was glad to see her again. They had a good time together last time. Today was supposed to be the same. The Marchioness praised the skill with which Martin complimented the women around him. She continued to praise the young man. However, she did not understand how he could hold his own among such a number of beautiful ladies. The woman asked. Maybe her company with the Duke would be inappropriate in this case. After all, I didn't want to prevent the youth from resting and enjoying the evening. Martin assured that he would be glad of their presence. An hour later, Ayla realized that she was getting drunk. Everyone around was talking about the fact that Count Alandis had finally laid a sea route to the east of the kingdom's capital. The Duke supported the Marquis. Soon the Count will start trading. The woman assured that in this way the Alandis family would become very rich and influential. It was only a matter of time. After all, Rogan Alandis was not someone who would be satisfied with collecting taxes from his lands. During this conversation, Ayla got the impression that the Marquise was looking too much directly at her. But here Martin began to speak. He asked if it was true that the Marquise had come up with an extremely interesting kissing game. The woman replied that the game had a primitive name, drink or kiss, and if there were more rules in it, there would be more people who lost in this game. But in this way, there are no people in it who would be dissatisfied with the result. Ayla thought about how she didn't like the word winner. It made her reconsider her attitude towards Martin. The feeling of something bad hasn't let go of her recently, and now it has intensified. Meanwhile, Martin offered to start the game. Lady Alandis thought about the chance of kissing only a boy in today's game. She was ashamed to admit to herself that she was the one who started it. During the kiss, she wanted to see the boy's true feelings for her. He had to fall in love with her, just as she had fallen in love with him. But her plan had a serious chance of not justifying itself. Everything could fail, but something bothered her. Meanwhile, the Marquise asked Martin if he was ready to drink, or maybe he'd like to kiss Lady Ayla. The boy asked the girl if she would mind a kiss with him. Ayla was silent. Finally, everything went as she planned. The scion of a famous family told the girl that he had had too much to drink and would rather not continue. But everything depended on her at the moment. The girl could not understand why she was delaying the answer. She herself recently needed to make a choice and build her own life. Martin saw it in his own way. He looked into her eyes and kissed her. Ayla wanted this moment so much, but now she understood that in her mind she was somewhere far from everything that was happening around her. The lady could not understand what exactly her love object was thinking about, and she was also thinking about Duke Shamel. But now all this was no longer important. After all, she herself at such a moment, for which she was preparing and which she was so afraid of, was thinking about a completely different person. Chastising herself, the lady believed that she had simply gone mad. The coachman heard Ayla say something loudly. He asked if the carriage should be stopped and how the lady was feeling. The girl assured that everything is fine and it is possible to continue the journey. Right now, Martin was her last chance, and only in her dreams, Ayla could allow him to write her a letter proposing to marry him. The lady felt lousy, believing that she really couldn't do anything on her own. A complete dilettante in love affairs. In her thoughts, she did not notice the wicker basket on the floor of the carriage. There was a warm blanket and apple juice. She needed these things right now to bring herself back to normal. It was obvious who had prepared them. At this time, Butler Jade was looking somewhere in the distance. The servant asked what exactly he was trying to see there, but the young man continued to look in silence. He understood that it was already late. The next day, the Count returned much earlier than the time he had agreed with his sons. The eldest son asked what made his father deviate from hunting in Conran province. After all, it was his favorite activity. Rogan Alanis was furious. He scowled at his son, who did not understand the reason for his father's anger. Father called Calaman a cretin and an idiot who could ruin everything. The other son, who came up, also did not understand anything. The old man called his sons animals who are incapable of anything themselves, and they can only spoil his plans and ideas. Both of them stood shocked by what they heard. They still could not understand the reasons for their father's anger. The eldest son asked to explain everything to them because they did not understand anything. The Earl angrily replied that the Duke of Chamel would not rent his ship to their family. Their plans may end there without even starting. The sons did not understand the reasons for the Duke's refusal, because until recently everything was very smooth and no changes in the plan were foreseen. Rogan said it was all thanks to his idiot sons. They spoiled the intentions, thought out over the years. Father asked absent-mindedly who escorted that bitch Isla to the ball yesterday. He was ready to disembowel the fool himself, who had taken her there and left her alone unattended in front of Duke Chamel. Calaman said he was with his sister. Old Alandis asked how his son had followed her, allowed her to kiss in front of everyone and, most of all, Duke Chamil. That is why the plan failed. The son felt guilty. Rogan asked where the other brother was when all this was happening. Both said that they had to separate for reasons. After all, they felt bad and complained about sudden changes in their health. The father got angry and cursed them. The Duke of Chamel wished to withdraw all the funds that were to be invested in the future campaign, and to withdraw his ship from the subordination of the trading office of the Alandis. Yesterday's event put an end to a great future. One of the sons asked what had happened so terribly that the Duke refused to support them. Rogan Alandis said that his daughter was making out with an unknown boy yesterday in front of the Duke and everyone present. The old Duke sent a letter saying the wedding was off and he was withdrawing his assets from their joint campaign. Calaman could not believe what he heard. He hoped that last night would pass peacefully. In front of the distinguished and noble guests, Ala kissed with Martin Giannino, a young man who had only recently arrived in their city. Everyone except the Alandai's sons saw their kiss. And these fools crawled all evening. It is not known where. Calaman understood that he needed to transfer his father's anger to something else. Otherwise, he was ready to burst. An idea arose in his head to bring Ayla here so that his father would shout at the culprit and take his anger out on her. Rogan liked his son's idea. He ordered to bring his daughter at the same time. The brother wanted to help, but Calaman refused, and said that someone should have stayed with his father at such a time. However, there was something strange in the behavior. When the door closed behind Calaman, and the youngest son was left alone with his father, he realized that he would become a victim for his father's execution. And Ayla was not to be hurt, because the Duke could change his mind and change his mind. Ayla entered the room. She asked her father how he was feeling and why he called her to his room. Rogan thought, how dare this girl look him in the eye so boldly? But the Count thought it was worth smoking. The cigar was not in the place reserved for her. Count Alandis called the butler whom he wanted to blame for the disappearance of the cigar. The maid replied that she had not seen him since the morning. It was strange. After all, the boy is usually the first to get to work, even when everyone else is still asleep. The servant replied that they themselves had been looking for him, but without success. Rogan said that everything is falling apart. He should go somewhere. Father looked at the expression on Ayla's face and thought that she was distracted by something else at such an important moment. He asked what his daughter was doing in his absence. The girl told about the ball, but she denied all the gossip and rumors that dared to defame her honor. There she simply chatted with the other nobles and behaved just like the other ladies and gentlemen present. And in the evening, they played a game. Rogan was angry. He asked if his daughter really thought he was a fool. After all, the spies reported that until this moment the daughter refused to play this game under any pressure. It would be better for her to get drunk. The girl realized that all this time she was being watched and spied on, and she was in full view of everyone present. Ayla felt like an insect that was constantly being watched. Her father scolded her and accused her of many sins. It was he who took care of her after the death of her mother and allowed her to lead a carefree life, so that one day she received a letter from the Duke with a marriage proposal. And then the girl had to part with her chastity. Instead, she was doing incomprehensible things now. Her actions were completely incomprehensible and beyond logical explanation. Yesterday, she kissed a stranger in front of the Duke and the nobles of the kingdom. Rogan asked if her daughter thought Martin was in love with her, or perhaps she thought of herself as Marquise Mellifina. But if the truth is the latter, then Isla is too wrong. She was not even standing next to the Marquise. The Count's daughter could not stand the pressure. She started screaming. And the first thing she touched was the question of why someone should allow her to do something, as if she were someone's subject or toy. And why should the girl care who will think what? Isla told her shocked father that she was not going to become the Duke's wife under any circumstances. She did not want to become his second wife. Instead, she will find a man of her own age and become happy with him. Rogan Alandis was not joking. He took out his belt and said that now his daughter will regret everything she said to him. Isla was not afraid. She was no longer afraid of his anger and empty promises. The belt hit her in the neck. Rogan said he didn't raise her to start showing her temper. And she got nice gifts and dresses for a reason. Everything in this life has to be paid for, including for comfort and protection. The girl could not withstand the beatings. She asked to stop. But the father was merciless. He could not believe that the girl dared to order him. Isla asked if he always bullied someone when he was angry. The daughter asked if he always bullied Jade like this. And why did the boy endure such abuse and beatings all these years? After all, he could easily escape from this cursed house. Even she wanted to run away from here. Isla said she was going to leave this house. She will marry Martin Giannino, and then they will have a happy family that her father and brothers will not have access to. And then she will be truly safe and protected. Rogan said it even sounded funny. After all, the girl forgot her place in this life. Someone knocked on the door and the Count stopped torturing his daughter. The unknown person said that he had an urgent business with the old Count. The girl immediately recognized this voice, but she could not believe that Jade would dare to enter the room of the terrible owner at such a moment and become a victim of torture and abuse again. The guy said he was wanted. Grafa said angrily that he had been looking for a butler since the morning, but he was not at work, and where he had the right to leave without his knowledge. The guy said he would explain everything, but before that, Rogan had to read the papers. The Alandis family got on the cover of the newspaper. Jade said the article turned out very well. It describes trade with Eastern partners and all the features of this process in great detail. The Emperor was also very interested in her. The old Earl's eyes lit up from the fact that he was reported in such a mass medium of information, not gossip, as a newspaper. But still of such a high level. Jade was ordered to give the cigar to the master and take the girl to her basement. Vani will talk to her again later so that she finally understands the prospects of marriage with the old Duke. Now there is a more urgent matter. The butler led the girl to the best room in the basement. He promised to bring water and food soon. The girl could not understand how the boy stayed here for 2 days, and that's all she knew about them. And how many more such days did he have? And if he had dared to run away, he would not have become a victim of abuse. She thought about her own life. It was all a mixture of lies and pain. She was ashamed and sorry for herself. Now the realization of one's true position has come. 2 hours later, Jade returned. He saw his mistress on the floor. She lay there breathless. But luckily the girl was just sleeping. Nothing terrible happened to her. The most disturbing thoughts were spinning in my head. The young man thought that the person who did this to his daughter had no right to be called a father. The guy wanted right now to go to his room and just turn the neck of that fool for abusing the girls. Jade wondered if he did that and ran away with Ayla. Would they really be free then? Of course, it was worth asking the girl herself if she wanted it. He remembered his father, who once advised him to let go of the past. The butler was rubbing the ointment, and he was thinking about what nonsense he was doing now. He also remembered the events of the past when he and Ayla used to play and enjoy the carefree days of childhood and youth.